Welcome, everyone. On behalf of Pacifica Graduate Institute and the Somatic Studies program, I want to welcome you to the dissertation defense of Brian. My name is Dr. Jennifer Selig. I'm core faculty at Pacifica, and I had the distinct pleasure of serving on Brian's dissertation committee as his chair. We're joined in the room today by his external committee member who just introduced himself as his academic father. Is that your name?
Dr. Father.
Yes. Dr. Father?
Rindisbacher.
Thank you. And in spirit, Dr. Alan Kilpatrick, who served as the internal reader, who sent best wishes and some questions from out of the country. I just wanted to say, being on a dissertation committee is an act of academic community service, I call it. We do it as a way of paying back the gifts that were given to us by our dissertation committee members. And sometimes we get really lucky and we've got a good writer with an interesting topic, which we have with Brian. So I want to particularly thank Hans for being on the committee. I lit this candle before I began to acknowledge that we enter into a dissertation defense in sacred space. I also wanted to acknowledge, in particular, I lit an unscented candle so that Brian was not distracted by scent during
the sulfur's out here right away. That's it.
Oh, sorry, I can't do anything about the sulfur.
I love it.
Okay, good. This particular ritual, where a student transitions into a scholar, and whereby a community of scholars welcomes in a new peer, stretches back to the Middle Ages. And I like to think of it that way, that I had 3 doctors that supported my work in being here as a doctor. Hans had 3 doctors, Alan had 3 doctors. All the way back, they had 3 doctors, all the way back to the Middle Ages in some unbroken chain of academic mentoring. So in the room today, also, we welcome the spirits of all of our academic ancestors and those who made it possible for us to be here. And this is a really unique degree in that when you get a PhD, one of the things you get with it, besides a just tremendous amount of debt, is you have the privilege of doing academic community service for very little money and serve on other people's dissertation committees and confer their degrees. It's a really special blessing that we're here to offer to Brian today. I say this with great confidence that he'll be able to do this because dissertation defenses at Pacifica are different than they are at other institutions, and I just wanted to acknowledge that. At other schools, students defend their dissertations while they're still works in progress. And there's a very real chance that the committee will send the student back for more revisions, will fail the student at the oral defense, send them back, and make them defend again and again and again. At Pacifica, our students enter into their oral defenses already having done all of that defending. We have approved their written work. In the case of me as the chair, I've approved chapters several times. Hans was a very hands-on committee member as well, sending it back for Brian, and Brian accepted and rose to the challenge of revisions constantly. So as far as we're concerned, he's already defended the work. And so our dissertation committee, our dissertation defenses are much more like celebrations, where the student who's become a scholar gets to stand in front of peers now and present the work, probably for the first time in an open space like this. So procedurally what will happen is I'll invite Brian to come up and he'll present his work for 30 to 40 minutes.
Closer to 20.
Closer to 20?
Yeah.
More time.
Precision and conciseness.
More time for drilling.
If I slow it down, maybe 25.
All right. You're welcome to slow it down. So what will happen after he presents his work is that the committee will then ask him some questions. I have some questions from Dr. Kilpatrick from afar, and he'll have a chance to offer his answers. If there's time, we'll open it up to the audience for some questions as well. And as long as Brian stays upright through the whole thing, we'll be able to declare him a doctor at the end. So with no further ado, and with much pleasure, Brian Falk.
We are. Good afternoon. Thank you everybody for coming. I really appreciate you being here to share this special experience with me. So a few weeks ago, I was in Switzerland visiting a really close friend. While I was there, I had the fortune to visit the former house of Carl and Emma Young, which only recently was open to the public. His grandchildren still live on the top floors, but they opened the bottom 2 floors to the public to do walking tours. They preserved the house as like a museum and pretty much left it as he had it when he lived there for almost 50 years. The whole place was incredible, his house, but my favorite room was Young's library, his study. That was on the 2nd floor. And as soon as the tour guide opened up the door to his library, the smell struck me. There was this sweet, musty, dried leaf scent. I took a few sniffs, like, oh my gosh. I looked at the tour guide, she's like, yes, tobacco. She's like, yeah, that's Young's tobacco smell. Wow. So Young smoked a lot of tobacco. You see in most pictures he has a pipe, and he smoked tobacco a lot. And in that room, the library, that's where he did a lot of his thinking and studying. So I looked around the room. I looked at his couch. I looked at his armchair, all the books. I thought, wow, this is where he spent most of his life, in this room. I imagine him sitting there reading, studying all the conversations he had with other people, hours pondering, working through psychological ideas, and all the people who came through there maybe, because he had a home practice. All his patients came to his home to see him. And then I thought about all the people that Young influenced. I mean, who knows how far it's spread and how many years his work will continue to influence people. So my imagination was going wild just from being in this room. And I thought how crazy it was that I'm doing or did my PhD in depth psychology, and my dissertation is on smells. And here I am in a room where a lot of depth psychology originated from. And there's a strong smell that I'm incredibly attracted to. And later I said to my partner Bridget, who was there with me, I said, like, how is it possible? He's been dead for 60 years. How is it that this smell is still in his library? And I was like, I know he smoked a lot. She's like, the books. She's like, all those books must have held the tobacco scent. And I don't know, that just made me really happy and excited thinking about books holding the smells. Lost the picture. This is his library.
Wow.
I can actually still kind of smell it. Smells I remember, and that room was something else. It was bigger than that. That's just a corner of the room. There's a whole couch and just filled with books. And he had books in his study where he patients and other places too, but that's where the majority of his books were. Some of them were old, alchemical texts. I mean, this room is incredible. So I love smells. I'm obsessed with them. And really, I think that's where my research began, was with realizing I was constantly talking about smells and smelling things and just obsessed with smells. And that was kind of a sign that I should maybe do a dissertation on it. Like do something you're obsessed with, and that's a good starting point. So what about them? That was really my starting point. Okay, I'm obsessed with smells. What about them? And that began my exploration of all this. That was 4 years ago. I don't even remember. All blur. So I was drawn toward those experiences we all have, where we smell something and we're taken back really clearly and strongly to the past. We maybe feel some strong emotions, and there might be a personal connection to that smell. The ones that mean something to us. I was wondering, like, what's that all about? So that was the beginning of my exploration of that. So the sense of smell is, the way I look at it, is one way that the human psyche has of experiencing ourself and the world. And that was really the starting point of my research. Then I came across a sentence by the psychologist James Hillman, who wrote, "Smells, like images, are reflections." I'm like, that's weird and trippy. Pondered that one for a while. Smells, like images, are reflections. Still kind of pondering that one. But that was kind of another impetus to begin researching things. I really wanted to dig more deeply into that. So I realized that the idea that a scent could be a psychic image hadn't really been studied that carefully, or at least I couldn't see that it was. And if, as Jung proposed, our psyche is composed of images, then I felt like scent images is an important way of understanding the psyche. Sorry. Okay. This picture on the bottom is Jung's deck. That's his house in Kuznets was right on the water. That was his little dock where his boat in Kuznets and Lake Zurich. Anyway, so Jung said that the psyche, as a reflection of the world and man, is a thing of such infinite complexity that it can be observed and studied from a great many sides. Now, this particular quote, I think, is very important. It really allows one to go in just about any direction of the human experience. And so that was, I'm like, okay, if that's the case, then why not study sense and scent images? So, my primary research question, because you have to have a starting point, you have to begin somewhere, was if an aroma can qualify as a psychic image, how and when does a scent image become meaningful? Okay? Now, this led to a few related questions that I needed to explore as well. One, what are the elements or qualities that comprise a scent image? What is the essence of a meaningful scent image? And what effect does reflection upon meaningful scent images have on the psyche? So those are my few questions that I tended to kind of work through and from. Okay, how was I going to do this? The methodology I chose is called hermeneutics. It's a qualitative way of doing research. It's basically interpreting and synthesizing text, taking books and articles and working with people's work that's already been written and trying to come up with some new ideas through that. So my main aim was to investigate the appearance and the effects of scents within the human psyche. I chose an interdisciplinary approach, or really that's where I was drawn to or interested in, because I'm doing a depth psychology program, but I'm also talking about sense, which I needed to bring in the natural sciences, but I was also drawn to a lot of philosophical works as well. So those are the three domains that I worked in and through, was depth psychology, natural sciences, and philosophy. But actually there's four. The somatic component, as my degree is in an emphasis in somatic studies, the body is central to all of our experience, just as the psyche is. You can't really separate them. So we can't forget the soma. And when I mean the somatics or the soma, it means the lived experience of the body from the inside. We have the physical body and then what our body actually feels like from the inside. That's what we consider somatics or the soma. And so one informs the other, the psyche and the body and the soma. You can't have one without the other. So really kind of playing with four areas here. Okay. So sense and psychic images. How does sense become psychic images? That was the first area that I explored. Now, Jung said that the images of the psyche are fundamental facts of our existence. Everything in consciousness must present themselves as images in order to become experienced. So that was a very important starting point when we're looking at how sense become images. So I differentiated two kinds of images at first, perceptual images and memory images. Perceptual images basically are imprints that are formed almost instantly when we receive stimuli through our five senses. These can be experienced consciously, but most actually occur involuntarily and unconsciously. We hear sounds, we see things, we feel things. It's mostly happening unconsciously. We're actually really only aware of a really small part of our experience. Most of what we're picking up is happening on an unconscious level. Memory images, on the other hand, are perceptual experiences, but with the added element of time, plus the influence of our imagination, which I'll get to later. And the imagination tends to color our memories. Our memories aren't exact replications of our past. Our imagination is working through those. So you have perceptual images and memory images. But not everything we smell necessarily becomes a psychic image. I discovered that. For one, most of what we smell never reaches our conscious awareness. I mean, we're smelling things all the time, but what actually gets into our awareness is actually quite small. And our body's filtering out danger, things that smell good, bad, but really what makes it into our awareness is actually a small percentage. So a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes. Okay, so I found that there were 4 main qualities that seem to be important in the making of a scent image. The first one is that they're evocative. Aromas, they must have enough energy or charge to cross the threshold of our consciousness to become objects of consciousness. They might arouse us or stimulate us, provoke or agitate us, so our bodies are involved in some way here. Next, they tend to be emotional. Scents will induce strong emotions, as you've probably experienced from time to time. We feel them in our bodies, and olfactory research has shown that the formation of vivid scent memories is usually accompanied by strong emotions. There's something about the things that we remember with scents that there's a relationship with emotions here. The third, idiosyncratic, means specific or particular. And that's that these scent images are detailed, they're personal, not the same as another person's. 5 people might have pleasant feelings, let's say, of freshly cut grass, which is a common